Welcome back to episode 6 of the One More K podcast. My name is Markus Gnirk and I am here with Ned Phillips, powered by Lekker Nutrition. Good morning, Ned.
Good morning. As we always say, you are still Marcus, I am still Ned. We are still running and talking.
But you are this time in Bali.
I am, and I have been here for a week. It is always good here, doing plenty of different things, but always running, obviously, and have been running beneath the big volcano, and seems to give you some good soul and some good power. Agung. So when I say running below it, basically you can see it from many places in Bali. So when you're running, you can see it, and it just feels pretty special to be running along the beach, looking at the volcano. I went out and did a 5 or 6 hour run on Sunday, as I like to do. It was wonderful.
I was wondering if you drop your long runs because you're on Bali now, but no, you are Ned. You're not changing your routine there.
No, got to do it, man. As I said, people had said to me, talking about discipline, people think I'm disciplined because I get up at 4:30 in the morning to run. That's not discipline. I do it because I love it. So I would not drop it no matter where I am.
Actually, here Bali is picking up also in terms of trail running. There are more races now coming up again. There was a COVID break, but it seems like it's back. More races happening this year, as far as I know.
If you, wherever you're listening to this from, if you are not familiar with Indonesia, the whole country is called the Ring of Fire. It is on a huge geographical fault line, which sadly results in things like the tsunami that we had 20 odd years ago. But one of the amazing things, it's full of volcanoes, and there's many amazing races here. So trail running is picking up. Ultras are picking up. There are some of the toughest races. There's one up an island called Lombok called Rinjani, and I'm going to say it's the slowest time for any 100K of any race almost in the world, because as you run up in ash, and every step you take up, you slide back. So if you want, the Indonesian trail running is booming because it's one of the most wonderful places to do it.
Yeah. I actually, just on the Rinjani piece, I'm always surprised how little it gets attention globally because it's such a tough race. And it should be considered as one of the toughest one, at least in Asia, maybe even the world, given this volcano ash. And I know a few people who did it last year, the Rinjani 100 miles. Absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. Yeah.
I think it's like, so, and you're right. Maybe it's just, as we know, marketing. But of course, the famous Diagonal des Fous. So Diagonal des Fous in Reunion gets all of the press as one of the hardest. And I have no doubt that it is, but I think, and maybe we should check, but I think the times are longer, slower, and harder for Rinjani. You're right. The finishing rate in Rinjani is very low.
I know a few Vietnamese runners who did it last year. Mr. Chung, he came second, I believe. And this year, I know a few people here also from Vietnam going to Rinjani. It's quite a trek to get to Lombok. It's an island next to Bali, but I recommend everyone who looks for a challenge, check it out. It's really worth it. Yeah.
100%.
But also I think Bali, honestly, thinking about more now I'm back in my ideation brain already, it's also the perfect destination for this new thing called trail running tourism, which is picking up like crazy how many tourists are now choosing a destination because they can get a trail run in or a race in. Not even just a trail run, a race in.
This comes back to our point. This is the greatest time in this sport ever. We're going to talk today about new sponsorships, new things happening, the amount of people doing it. I mean, I was out running this morning, Marcus, just on the beach, just on a calm trail, and a group of people ran past with Bali Trail Runners T-shirts on. They were all out training, Bali Trail Runners training. There was many people out running. And as you're running, you're looking up at the volcano. So if you're a runner, what are you going to do? You're going to think, oh, wow, I could run up there. So you're right. I think in many places, Bali can be a little crazy, too much traffic. But if you take the time, look up, look at the volcanoes. I mean, look, you live in Vietnam, and every time I see pictures of people trail running in Vietnam, it is some of the best.
Maybe we should do one day, one more training camp somewhere in the mountains.
You come up with these ideas. Ned's trail running team, trail running camps. We're just sitting there dreaming of stuff to do.
Anyway, long story short, you already took away what I wanted to cover in terms of the agenda today. Today we do have quite a bit of, we call it innovation updates, and then we cover the sponsorship side, more news happening, and of course we will go into the race recap corner before we wrap it up again with your beautiful drop of the day. So a question for you, Ned. How do you feel like if you using sunglasses during your running and you could see all your running stats on the screen of the sunglasses while running?
I think it's a thing for many, many people. I think for me, I don't know. I mean, okay, I look at my watch too often. Would I like to see it directly from my glasses? I don't know. But do I think many people want this? 100%.
So I just came across Engo 2, which is a brand coming out on the market more and more now, which offers these sunglasses, super light, super, I guess, fashionable in the sense of sports. And what it does is it shows the metrics, key metrics on the sunglass while running.
Mm-hmm.
So metrics like heart rate, power, pace, distance, and many others. It looks quite cool, but yeah, would this distract one more from the idea of running? And who do you think would actually use this? Which customer segment is mostly inclined to use such smart devices, let's call them?
You know, there's so many new people coming to the sport, right? The old heart of the sport is people not even using watches. People just running for the soul of it. Now, because you have your stats, it doesn't mean it doesn't have soul. But I think as the sport gets younger, and I think the sport has got younger, typically the sport was 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, and 60-year-olds. But now it's 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds who grew up with technology, who want to have everything in front of them. So I'm going to say, when you ask who wants to use something like Engo 2, I think it is the new trail runners, the people coming to this sport in their 20s and their 30s, being able to have their stats, live stream their stats, live stream their videos. And I'll tell you, Marcus, the other day, a friend of mine sent me a video from his Ray-Ban Wayfarers with camera inside. It was amazing. I basically could see what he could see while he was trail running over a frozen lake in Montana. It was wild, man. And if I could have seen his heart rate and his stats while watching the live stream, I would have watched it.
So hold on. There was a live stream of him running, and you can see it at the same time as he was running.
Yes.
It wasn't recording, it was a live stream.
Yes.
Holy moly.
Things are getting wild, man.
So basically, I could just sit here and on a Sunday morning have my coffee and watch you running around your 6 hours in Singapore and Bali.
If your life is that devoid of meaning that would be entertaining for you, yes, you could.
Or I could be on if I live in a city, I don't know, let it be a polluted city. We have many polluted cities in Asia. I go to my gym, I go on the treadmill, and I basically subscribe to your live stream feed. And I'm on my gym, I'm watching you running around the Bali mountains, and you earn $1 per kilometer from me.
You know what? We should stop doing anything else apart from sit and talk. You come up with the ideas. We're going to hit jackpot here, my friend. Like these ideas, not that it's me. Okay. Would you pay $1 a run to run with Killian, to be able to see what Killian when he's running over those ridges? We would, right?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would. I would pay $1, but also I think I would pay more even to be more exclusive, have more access to the person. So it's like a premium model where you could say, hey, you support that athlete, sure. But at the same time, also you want some post-run information or you want extra information that's relevant to you. I don't know. But yeah, for sure. I think long story short, I would pay $1, whatever, to see this person having a great time, performing well, whatnot. But is it more for the person or is it more for the nature? Right. So right now you say you're in Bali. Would I pay more because you're in Bali? Yeah. Would I pay if you are in Singapore? Not so sure. Even though I like you, Ned, but Singapore I lived, I wouldn't pay for it.
I think that is fair. But the options, and I think that's the point of all of these new innovations that we're going to talk about this week. These options are becoming reality.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
I think this, I would cluster all of this into the big topic of invasive smart tech, where you have more and more devices coming closer to your body, coming even maybe inside your body at some point, where you measure just many more metrics. I mean, people talk a lot about the sweat rate these days, right? And how to optimize your sweat rate. There's a lot of new research and experiments and nutrition coming up around this. And that is already quite a new data point we haven't really looked into with the existing devices. Heart rate, I feel like, is almost a given now. That's been there for the last 20, 25, 30 years. I mean, when did heart rate monitors start, Ned? I think I'm too young for this.
I remember strapping on a heart rate monitor, 35 years ago. They were pretty wild and cool back then. It was heart rate. It was pretty big. Like if you're watching on YouTube, it was like these big things that would sit right here. Yeah, 30. Of course, we've been able to measure heart rate longer. Heart rate's a given. But okay, so we're going to take a little detour here. And heart rate, I think, is a given, right? You know this idea of perceived effort? We talk about RPE, rate of perceived effort. When you're training, the idea is this. If you can talk in whole sentences, your effort is low. If you talk in shorter sentences, it's higher. And if you can't talk, you're going at full effort. And we can judge that very well as humans. My son does animal biology at university. Bees tell other bees where the food is or where the nectar is by shaking their butts. The more they shake their butts at the other bees, they're able to tell the bees exactly how many kilometers away the nectar is. Bees know how far 100% of their maximum effort is. And they shake their butt, the percentage of effort to get there. So one bee can tell another bee how many kilometers away and in what direction it is, the nectar, by shaking their butt. Bees basically have an RPE, rate of perceived effort. Imagine we could see Killian of somebody's rate of perceived effort. We could understand where he is in his own heart and soul of, is he about to blow up? If we could get stats that are showing these indeterminables, his mind state. Killian, you know when you've been on that long run, Marcus, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so close to blowing up. I've got to hang on. Only you know that. Imagine you could know. We can do it. Bees can do it. Bees know.
Interesting. I was about to ask you, which metric would you like to know more about? And it seems like it is perceived effort.
Perceived effort. It's all about perceived effort in ultra, because you can always do more. You can always do more. It's your brain that stops you. It's not your body. It's your brain.
And what is the channel you would like to have this metric communicated to you? A watch, glass, headphones?
Well, no, you mean I'd like to see Killian or Courtney's or someone else. I'm happy to watch that. That's what I mean. I don't want to see my own perceived effort. I know that. I know my own perceived. I know when I'm going to blow up. And how do I stop it? Just training, willpower. I will not blow up. I will keep. So for me, if I'm doing a long run, more than 50K, 100K, I can't sit down ever. The minute I sit down, it slows me and my brain deteriorates. So when I did my 100K in a 5, I never took one sit down moment for 1 second, never even sat down to have a drink of juice. The minute I sit, my brain goes, it's okay, you can take it easy now. So I refuse to, point blank. I will not sit down. I want to see Killian or Courtney's or someone's rate of perceived effort. How? I don't know.
Got it. Okay. Is there any other device you would like to see more in order to optimize your training? I do think that with Engo, for example, the watch I just mentioned, it looks like something that is pretty interesting for the high performance athlete. I would consider those in terms of the Ironman triathletes who really optimize every single second or microsecond now of their training. I can see that being a good market for such devices. Anything else you would like to see for trail running or any other ultra sport?
It's a great question. I don't know. I would like to see, it's getting a little wacky, like brainwave patterns. I want to see how messed up your head is. So, Marcus, when you're running, what's the furthest you've ever run?
100 something 4 kilometers.
Do you remember towards the end when you were trying to do simple mathematics? I have 10K to go. I have 83 minutes. What's 10 into 83? What's that? You know how you can't do simple maths towards the end of a long run? I would love to see stats on that brain deterioration. How lucid is the person? I want to understand the lack of lucidity, if that's the right terminology.
Very interesting. I think in general, also just the impact on the brain cells. I mean, there is this high-level research, or at least I haven't really digged into it much, is how does this affect brain cells? There are some people saying it does affect your brain cells and you actually replenishing them, and others are saying you're actually killing them. I don't know, maybe both are right or wrong, but that's one thing. And the other thing I would like to look more into is the thing of the microbiome. And I think that's an interesting conversation in other areas of health. I hear a lot these days, everything's about the gut, aka the microbiome. And I would love to understand, how does ultra running affect the microbiome before, during, and after training? And how do you actually optimize your maybe training and racing with the right microbiome approach? Whether it's probiotics, prebiotics, different nutrition, different diets, I don't know. But I'm wondering the correlation there, the connection there. Because I had that after my ultra, my long 100K, I did think my microbiome was a bit messed up, and I couldn't then produce enough amino acids to get my mood back in place, which mood is basically endorphins and other hormones, and they are produced with the help of amino acids, which are coming from the microbiome. So all of these things fit together, and I'm unfortunately right now the best expert on this, but I'm curious to learn more about this in this long chain of events happening in ultra running and training.
That's honestly is so interesting, because in essence, we all know that you got to put things in your stomach to keep running. And I think running, when you ran 104K, you probably put in Coke and sugar and crap and different things. Is that good for your microbiome? No, I don't believe it is. Do I think ultra running is good for you? Yes, I do. But that's a great point. Is ultra running good for your microbiome? I think the answer is no. I always come back to the same fact. Is it good for your soul? I think the answer is yes. Do they balance? I have no idea.
For sure. Okay. I mean, again, to the audience out there listening, we appreciate your input on this. We have already received some of those innovations from you, so please let them come our way. We appreciate your input, and whatever you see happening out there is really appreciated. On the next big announcement, it was last week, slightly more from the tech world, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, how the world works in the ultra world. OpenAI launched the text-to-video application called Sora, making now possible to create the most real and beautiful videos I have seen a machine can do so far. 6 months ago, Will Smith was eating spaghettis. There was also AI created and looked pretty horrible. Now they're actually able to make these beautiful drone shots of, various parts of nature. They can create videos of Christmas markets, of animals. It looks absolutely real. Just by writing one prompt, text to video, and you have this video. How do you think this will affect trail running, ultra running, if any?
And remember, this is the worst it's going to be. It's only going to get better. So what we saw, and I actually last night would spent half an hour looking at Sora. So it's called Sora, Sora OpenAI. Blow your mind away, people. We can't use it yet. Only a small group of beta testers, so it's not open to the public. Just go onto YouTube and put in Sora. I don't know if you saw the old man in a Paris cafe. Somebody wrote old man in Paris cafe, and it had with a gray beard, and a red beret. I mean, it was a real dude. Like, it was wild. So how does I think it affect trail running? Let's say we wanted to make a trail running movie. You don't need to go to the trails anymore. You just type in trail runner running through gorgeous mountain, running fast in an ultra race, passing another competitor. You'll get that. You don't need. So the question is this to Billy Yang. So Billy, if you're listening, I'm sure you're not, but I'd love it if you were. I'd love to hear your views because you're an exceptional filmmaker, Billy. Does this change your world? So that's what I think. I love film documentaries of trail running. What do you think, Marcus? Is it good enough now? It's only 1 minute long right now. So right now it's quite short. So you can't make a whole, but is it good enough to do a convincing trail movie?
I think that it is for now a tool for many to use, whether it's video makers or brand owners. It's a tool that basically makes things easier. Do you now need to go up the mountain and do a drone shot? Probably not. You can just type it into AI, you get that shot. Can you or can AI create human stories? And can AI make an interview authentic and realistic? I don't think so right now. So I think as a video maker, for example, you have to up your game in order to really bring out those amazing real human stories. And you use AI for all the more basic stuff that you still need to have in your video. You know, you have these trail running videos, you talk about Billy Yang or others, they have these amazing shots of people running in the mountains. I mean, those I think you can just get. But if you and I just talking right now to each other, I think that is still impossible for an AI to recreate. All the ideas we have right now, all the emotions about you having emotions for Laz and I have emotions for ideas, I'm not sure those things are recreatable by AI at the moment, at least. So it's a tool, and you need to just focus more on what can you do as a human to deliver to the world.
You told me not to watch the Super Bowl, but you said watch the advert within the Super Bowl. Watch what it does. And the point was this. The counter trend, as we push more towards AI, humans push against, I'm not pushing against AI, but we want to see human stories. Your point is we want to see real human stories, like real things, like real, hey, this is me. The message someone said is, oh, you mean you want to show you're not a robot? I'm like, bing, that's it. That's it. Prove you're not a robot. Nothing wrong with being a robot. Nothing wrong with AI. I'm not against it. But your point is correct. How long, Marcus? So and we're not a tech show. How long until AI can do this, what we're doing? What me and you are doing now? Free flow conversation with these feelings, knowing that I love Laz and you love ideas. I think that's quite a way off.
Yeah, I think in this case, I don't know the number, but there needs to be X amount of hours being fed into the AI of you and me talking and having our faces out there. And this number, if you are doing 100 episodes, maybe then there's enough data for the AI to do it. But right now, I think it's not possible. Yeah, well, I'd like to believe.
Considering we already get like at least 1 million views a week, I mean, surely it'll be soon before it'll somebody will replicate us because of our Z grade celebrity status in the trail world.
Wow, what did you have this morning in your coffee? Huh? Yeah.
Hey,
But just my last.
Go on.
My last comment on this is I think as these AI, I call it entertainment, images, video becomes more and more, again, possible, people seeking more real experiences, which will also lead people to go outside more. So I think it's actually, in this case, good news for the trail running world. People want to really experience nature, really experience the race or the training, and they're going to invest more time and more money, more resources into this experience. As we're just getting more and more bombarded with real life, so-called real life videos, I think people actually say, you know what, I'm going to go out and do it myself.
Yes.
That's my hope and my belief.
I'm with you, man.
Wonderful. Last part of the innovation corner is that NNormal, the shoe brand and gear brand of Kilian Jornet, has released something called the durability test, which seems like it's one of the first times a shoe brand has actually published their data, or at least trail running shoe brand, published the data on how long their shoes are lasting under extreme effort. So have you read the stats? Have you looked at the...
I've looked at some, and it's for their new, and what I noticed, it's only been 2 years. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the shoe, Kerjag. Do you know how to pronounce the name of the shoe correctly?
Charag? Yeah, I think we're on the same page here.
What did you take away from it?
The shoe, basically, it's... Again, they are looking at how long does the shoe last, and so they ran it for 1,100 kilometers, and comparing it from 0 to 25 to 256 to 756, and then 1,100 kilometers, and basically showcasing, hey, how does everything changes? And I am going to put up the screen here, so anyone who is watching on YouTube, please have a look. But you can pretty much see how, yeah, of course, it's beautiful at 0 kilometers, but at 1,100 kilometers, they say there's no more cushioning left, loss of the midsole, and no more grip is there. And there are quite a bit of holes and cuts in the midsole as well. I think it's not really about what's happening after 1,000 kilometers. I think it's more about the approach that Kilian and the brand are taking to be more transparent about their gear. And
I think that
NNormal is already claiming to be a sustainable brand. They are a CO2 neutral brand, carbon neutral brand. And this is just another part to them being, I guess, authentic and responsible.
The old benchmark was 500 miles, you should get a new pair of shoes. So every 500 miles you put in, you should, now you don't have to, obviously, but on average. So it's not surprising once they get to 1,000K, it's kind of worn out. That number has always been bandied around. But again, coming back to our point that we were just talking about, AI, transparent, human, honest, open. That's the trend. Say it as it is. My shoes, and I did read the article enough to know, Kilian says his shoes after about 1,000K. Then he says, what do you do with your shoes afterwards? So they have like a return and recycle, or they have a repair. So then saying, don't just throw them in the bin and move on or buy a new pair. Let's see what else we can do. And I think this will work really well for NNormal.
Yeah. It is about creating trust. And as a brand, you need to create trust. You can't anymore just give the typical marketing message. So being transparent about how it works and how it doesn't work, I think helps it quite a bit.
So, and I think we've talked about this before, maybe Kilian is becoming, and I've just thought about this. It's great talking with you, Marcus. We should just sit and talk all day about stuff. This is so much fun. Yvonne Chouinard, I'm sure I hope as many of our listeners know, was the founder of Patagonia. So Patagonia, the great outdoor adventure brand. You like it, Marcus? You like Patagonia?
I am the biggest fan of Patagonia and him.
Superb. And I'm sure you've read Let My People Go Surfing. He, just for a tiny bit of history, and maybe Kilian thinking about this, is the new Yvonne Chouinard. So Yvonne Chouinard was a rock climber in the 60s, realized that gear wasn't made correctly. He was also a blacksmith, so he started making some gear. If you know, in mountain climbing, gear means stuff to put into the rock to help you climb rock. But he also realized clothes weren't, they were just wearing jeans and T-shirts. So he started making clothes. And his story, Let My People Go Surfing, is a story called The Story of a Reluctant Businessman. He didn't want to be a businessman. He's a dirtbag climber. He lives in vans. He doesn't need $100 million. He doesn't want more gear. And his very famous advert was an advert once Patagonia was getting bigger, because he started making clothes for climbers and for surfers and for fishermen and for outdoor adventurers. He had a picture of a Patagonia jacket, and the advert said, "Don't buy this jacket." And it wasn't just a cliched marketing message. He said, don't buy shit you don't need. Don't buy this. Only buy it once. You've already got a jacket. Don't buy this. But if you need one jacket, just one jacket forever, buy this, but buy it once. Don't buy other stuff. Don't buy wasteful stuff. And I don't care if you buy Patagonia. And he actually meant it. Like, he actually meant, don't buy this jacket. And of course, what did everybody do? Everyone bought his jacket, of course, because he was being real. I'm glad you are a fanboy of him. And maybe Killian feels like he has the same heart and soul. Killian's just a mountain man who will build a huge brand.
And he is on top of something there. We did reach out to him. We haven't heard back from him yet. We asked him if he wants to come on the podcast. So we will say it here now to the universe. Again, Killian, please join us on the podcast. We have lots to talk about. Eventually we'll get you. Don't worry.
And Killian, and of course, there's so many great people out there. Killian was so his connection to Asia, he spent time over here, but Killian was in Nepal when the huge earthquake came, and he did an amazing amount of work himself. I've been to a fundraiser actually in Bali 7-8 years ago. I watched his film about it. So I know he's passionate about this region because he's clearly passionate about huge mountains and nature. And of course, Asia is blessed with some of those. So, but yeah, continuing the good work of Yvonne and putting profits with a purpose back to the planet. So we hope NNormal does well.
All the best for all the businessmen in this world out there. Moving on to another brand, another news that came out actually 2 weeks ago. We missed it last week, but it is Kailas, the Chinese outdoor brand, renewing the sponsorship with Tour de Géants, the very long distance racing series in the Alps. What do you make of this Chinese brand partnering with European race organizing company?
It's always hard not to be biased as two people from Germany and Scotland who have made our lives in Asia. We adore where we live. We're obviously working in Asia. You're producing a nutrition brand from Asia. I think Asia is the boom part of trail running. If you think about it, Asia is a growing, developing area of the world. When I came here 30 years ago, people were like, oh, Asia, yay, don't know much about it. Now, China, India, all these countries. But the biggest thing is trail running needs economic stability. No one's out trail running if you're scrabbling. And a lot of people in Asia are still, unfortunately, below the poverty line and are still scrabbling to make a living, and it's hard. But more and more are becoming economically stable. And sadly, in China, people are getting some of the bad American habits of eating processed food and are becoming unhealthy. So they need to trail run, which is the craziness of this all. But to see a Chinese brand sponsor, not the biggest race, Tour de Geants is not UTMB, but a big race. This is the start. And I think we are about to mention Free Trail, Dylan Bowman with Goldwyn, the Japanese brand. Within a week, Marcus, two big brands in the West partnering with Asian brands. I mean, to say we love this trend is an understatement.
For sure. I think the other thing I had in mind was with Kailas. Maybe they do see something in the long distance race format like Tour de Géants. Maybe they do see this as a growing trend. People are getting bored with 100K. Now it goes to 330K, whatnot. And maybe they're picking Tour de Géants as a partner for Europe. Of course, it's for branding. Of course, it's for marketing. Of course, it's for many other things. But also, it is a clear message to, hey, we believe in long distance, ultra distance, and considering putting our money into this market. We also have heard that Francois is considering doing Tour de Géants. Like Courtney is always playing around with ideas to do long distance, longer than UTMB. So maybe there's something that's really just the next level of where racing is going.
I think, again, I hate to always be the old person in the room, but I think that fact's never changing. I am basically just always going to be older than you. A marathon used to be amazing. When I was 20, people were like, you've done a marathon? That's incredible. Like, I hadn't. It was incredible. Now everyone's done a marathon. Not everybody, but everybody. You know, oh, you've done an Ironman. Oh, you've done 100K, 100 miles. Those 200-mile races in America are selling out. Like, they're selling out in a heartbeat. A Destination Trail, Candice Burt's races. You know what? Do you know what she's done? Because she sold out all of her 200-mile races. You know what's coming next year? You got it. It's a 300-miler. And she thinks she'll sell it out. And I do think, and particularly if we talk about, so the Chinese brand going long, we see Goldwyn, which is a Japanese brand, partnering with Dylan Bowman and Freetrail, which is really the emerging media partner of choice in ultra and trail. And having been to Japan, running is, I'm going to say, the most important sport in Japan. Like, they adore it, and they adore the long efforts. Japan culture is about extreme ability to suffer. And I do think those long efforts in Asia resonate really well.
Certainly very interesting. I'm still right now, if I would choose why it's happening, it's just that these brands have gained so much momentum and have grown quite a bit that they are now looking to expand to the West. If I would choose one key objective, it's less about Tour de Géant or Freetrail looking to move to the East. I think it's more the East expanding to the West. That's my 2 cents.
And I think you're right. But obviously, 10 years ago, no one cared anything about trail in Asia. We couldn't get $1 in. We couldn't get $1 out. There was no trails. There was no races. We're in the most amazing position. So you're right. I think your point is right. That is the way. But it's just the fact that that is open now. Runners will come. That path of money flow, of runners, of business is a thing, which is fantastic. Who would have thought? Yep. Asian brands growing. It's awesome.
Well, covering quickly some European news, which is the Finnish watchmaker Suunto is partnering up with UTMB, who we all know, and they are becoming the official watch partner of UTMB. Interesting enough about this announcement, just double clicking on it, is that now the partnership is mainly about the ability to load certain course details onto your Suunto watch, checkpoints, elevations, more details basically than other GPX files, which again, what does it tell us? Runners seem to care more about all these details while they are racing. And now having more information on your watch while you're running, in this case on the Suunto watch, seems to be an advantage, or they think it's going to be an advantage and a good selling point to the runners. It tells us more data while you're running.
I don't want to come across as the UTMB basher, so I'm going to choose my words carefully. Are you saying if I'm wearing a Coros and someone else is wearing a Suunto, they have more data than me?
Officially, yes. The announcement does not say others don't have the data, but it does say that Suunto has specific data tailored towards the UTMB runner. I'm sure that Coros could do something similar, but that's a Coros team doing it. But in this case, it seems to be UTMB and Suunto doing it together.
I am such a believer in business. It's never about saying others can't. It's about, so as long as Coros or Garmin could do it, if it's that data's only available to Suunto, yeah, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I'll say that. I'm not the biggest fan of only Suunto. But if it's data that anybody could do, but just Suunto is promoting it, that's fair enough. I mean, look, in the end of the day, the best runner will still win. But interesting.
So, let me read out the announcement. So it says, Suunto says that anyone with a Suunto vertical or Suunto race watch can download specific and tailor maps for any of the 41 UTMB World Series events, including the UTMB Mont Blanc finals. The maps are available in 3 different styles and come preloaded with landmarks, contour lines, water paths, and terrain variations, as well as markers for all of the official checkpoints on each race. So the technology will prove most useful for runners wishing to check out the route in advance on reconnaissance runs, and also stay on track on race day and be informed about what's ahead. So it does sound like it's tailor-made for Suunto.
I mean, I suppose Coros could go out and do it too. I would. Can you imagine? There's 2 people racing and one gets lost and one doesn't, and then the Suunto person's like, "Well, I had that data," and the other person's like, "Well, I didn't have that data." I mean, look, the world isn't fair, right? Actually, that's not true. Fair's a mirage. Fair's an invention in our heads. But anyway, it is more information for everybody. In the end of the day, the person who runs the fastest will still win. So let's see. I tell you what, at some point, Suunto or not, we're going to have to guess who's going to win UTMB at some point anyway. So
this is just reconfirming my point from earlier that more data is coming to the sport and athletes have more choices and need to decide as well for themselves what data they need to perform better. And I do think that there will be significantly differences being made in race times because of data.
Hold on, stop. I'm interested in this. You think people with better data will get better race times?
I do think that the more comprehensive approach of training and racing, where you have more data, will probably make you a better runner.
That's fair. Now, here's the point. Courtney is never on Strava, doesn't claim to have a watch, or I did notice she's with Suunto, never shares her data, claims never tracks her data, says every day she wakes up and just chooses to run, whatever, and comes home and has a beer and has some candy and a pizza and is crushing. Is she the outlier, or is your soul and happiness and free spirit, or are we becoming a world where our sport is becoming professionalized? Well, I suppose it is. I hope not.
Then the question is, that's also a fair point, up until what distance does data make a difference? we know for a fact that in Ironman, it does make a bit of a difference, in training especially. But maybe up after 100K, 200K running, the difference is negligible and you don't anymore see any advantage through data. So maybe it's only up until 50K, 100K, I don't know. And then at some point it just evens out.
Somebody who uses a lot of data, and I saw his stats. And maybe did you share it with me? I think it was Alexander Sorokin. His crushing 384 kilometers a week, and he has all the data and the stats. He's averaging like 420s. He's getting so close to 200 miles in 24 hours. He just missed the other day. I think he got to like 198. And that must be data driven. He has to know down to the last, because every second he saves per kilometer is super important. So I think we can say even up to 200 miles data is important. But look, we're also all unique. Courtney's amazing and doesn't seem to need data. Alexander Sorokin is amazing and seems to need data. That was crazy, that data you shared of his.
And Killian is also known to be really deep into his data and his spreadsheets and his analysis. So he's also really looking into this part quite a bit. And I'm wondering if we ask him the question, what else would you like to see, what his answer would be like?
Well, one day he's going to be on the show, so we'll find out. But did you see sometimes he posts his training session? The one that, I don't know if you follow it, is when he's like, hi, everybody. He does like a little video. I'm going out for a training session. His wife, the great ultra runner as well. Oh my God, I forgot her name, but I'll remember. Emily Forsberg. Emily, yep. He says, I'm going out for a training session. Great. He's like, yeah, I'll be about 2.5 days, not quite sure, going out for 40 or 50 hours in a huge loop in the Norwegian mountains. And I'm like, that's gold. Let's go. I want to do that. I want to head out for 40 hours randomly through the mountains. And if you see his gear and he has his bars, we need to give him some Lecker bars to keep him out there for another few hours. But then you're right. You get to see his data, like he will share it. And I love it. It's amazing to see. So look, more data, the better, just not for everybody.
Full disclaimer, we have no association with any of the brands here. So we're not supported by Suunto nor NNormal. We're just chatting on the podcast, FYI. All right, moving on to the racing recap corner. We had some exciting races happening last weekend. One of them is the famous Nine Dragons in Hong Kong. Back to Hong Kong, Ned.
50 miles, 50K. 50 miles on a Saturday, 50K on a Sunday. You can choose to do either the 50 miles, you can do the 50K, or you can do both, and your combined time is. And so we'll see here in the 50K, Stingray, who used to be at the North Face team, went out and crushed it. Great to see a Filipino runner there doing incredibly well, coming through. These, if you look at these times, so it seems quite a long time for 50K, 6 hours. But for anybody who has not spent time in Hong Kong, these are hills. These are steep. It's no messing in Hong Kong. Like 50K, 50 miles, it's going to batter your legs. So great to see deep, good fields in this unique race format.
For sure. I think what's noteworthy is, Stingray already mentioned, he is based in Hong Kong. He knows the course probably very well. It's 50K and it's super steep. It is more than 3,000 meters elevation gain, 11,000 feet.
Wow.
All these stairs on this short course are significant. So he is fast. He knows it. He can do it. Anthony is actually a friend of mine based in Boulder, Colorado, who came second on the hard race. Remember, we talked about that race a few weeks ago in Hawaii. And so he came now to Hong Kong. And it's good to see the global elite battling itself out here. Again, it's what we saw happening in the Hong Kong 100 race, I think recently, where also Americans and the locals were having a good time. This time it's Anthony and Stingray, and clearly Stingray was faster. But also the Indonesians were there. Quite good to see that, Rizky was coming from Indonesia and coming third. So I love to see always these podiums where various nations are represented. It just shows how this world of trail running is moving together. On the 50 miles, it is the locals dominating it clearly. And we had the top four were all local Hong Kong runners who are crushing it on the 50 miles course.
But interestingly, if you go to the 50-50 solo, so go into the top and you'll see the 50-50 solo, what you will see is none of this was local. Look at this. Now this is
Christian is based in Hong Kong. Sorry.
Okay. And look, to be fair, Solomon, who came fourth, is also based in Hong Kong. But if you look at the nationality, Denmark, Ukraine, Netherlands, Switzerland, Nepal, Philippines, Australia. So these are you do 50 miles on the Saturday, 50K on the Sunday, and the combined time. And look, you're right. I'm not sure who the second, where they're based. Well, from Ukraine, also maybe based in Hong Kong. So a lot of expats based there. But it shows that we have the theme of today's show, East meets West in trail running. We have an amazing field here, either based here. We have brands coming together here. It's great to see that. For anybody who's listening to the show, what if you ever get the chance to race in Hong Kong, to be up the biggest mountain, climbing steeply, particularly at night, and staring down into Hong Kong Harbor, one of the greatest, vibrant cities in the world. It is an extraordinary experience. If you ever get the chance, or even if you're passing through Hong Kong, go and see it. It's incredible.
For sure. Next up was the Tarawera by UTMB happening in down south New Zealand. A big race of the UTMB series. You've been doing this race or?
No, followed it. It's a big race. And it's, obviously we have Ruth Croft, the absolute great Ruth Croft has been one of the best in the world for such a long time. Awesome to see Ruth out there crushing it. There's a super documentary about Ruth, so have a look through there. It has 100K and 100 miles, so 100K. Do you know? Oh, Justin Grunwald, that's great to see. Justin, and look at that field. Sage Canaday, Daniel Jones, that's a stacked field.
I was about to say, it looks like the female field was more from like New Zealand, Australia, from the south. But the men's field looks like quite mixed up from various parts of the world coming to New Zealand. So definitely interesting for the 100K. For the 100 miles, you said some friends are running.
Well, Sam, of course, you guys know I'm a backyard junkie. Sam Harvey, the great. Now, anybody who has run more than 100 yards at backyard is a great. Sam Harvey has run 101 yards. I think he's gone over 100, I believe, twice. And Sam, I think, thought of himself as a long-distance slow runner, and he came second at this. So he had speed too. So I was excited. That was the one result I noticed. I was excited to to see that.
Yes, just to mention the winners here, we had Adrian McDonald coming first from the US. Sam, as you said, from New Zealand comes second. And then Mike Carroll from Australia came third for the 100-mile male. And on the female side, we had Konoka Azumi from Japan and
Awesome.
Chantel Smith, Australia, Chrissy Faber from my country, Germany, coming third. Very
awesome.
Good. Nice. And a shout out to our friends from Ironman. We also had the Ironman 70.3 here in Thailand in Bang Saen, which is always an exciting race for the local Ironman community. I know a lot of friends from Singapore and Hong Kong and whatnot flying to Thailand for this race. It's a big one on the Ironman Southeast Asia calendar.
Amazing to see. I think I spent 10 years in Ironman, and there was 1 or 2 races in Asia 10 years ago. I think I had a quick look. There's like 15 70.3s in Asia alone. Great to see this. Thailand is a super place for racing. And one of the great triathlons, the Phuket Triathlon, which has incredible history. Thailand has been a hotbed. And for all of you in Ironman, one of the legends, Jürgen Zach, who probably the greatest Ironman never to win Kona, a absolute killer on the bike, like all Germans are. Marcus, I don't know how good you are on the bike, but assuming you're German, I'm going to assume you're amazing on a bicycle. We have had from Sebastian Kinley to Jürgen Zach to Norman Stadler. And Jürgen's been based in Thailand coaching, and the Phuket Triathlon, one of the original generation triathlons. So great to see more 70.3s and more endurance racing in Thailand. It's a fabulous place.
Yeah, it's great also to see the training camps, because I think it really gives the regional young talent a place to go and train with the best. Otherwise, where else would you go? Here, staying in Malaysia or Vietnam or so on, I think you need to train with the people who are better than you. And having this Phuket training camp is a great chance to really be beaten up in training.
100 and just on that, so Jürgen Zach, one of the greats, training and living in Thailand. I'm in Bali right now, and my friend, his daughter, 13-year-old, is doing a lot of. She's very good, about 5th ranked in Indonesia. She's kind of a young British girl going to school here. Is getting trained by Michael Klim. Michael Klim, who you may not know, was one of the great swimmers from the 80s and 90s, Olympic medalist. He was kind of Michael Phelps before Michael Phelps, and is training and living in Bali. So Asia is becoming a place for people who like the heat and like hard training. If you're a former great athlete and want a new life and new world, come and live and train in Asia. It's amazing.
We're only missing then a trail running training camp. And I think I did mention earlier something like a 1 more K training camp. Anyway, but I think it's a matter of time until we see also these ecosystems coming together. Like we have already Boulder, we have, of course, Chamonix, we have other places in the Alps. We don't really have yet, maybe only Chiang Mai, but it hasn't really been on the map. We don't have yet a place where the trail runners mingle. It's still a bit more clustered in different parts of Asia.
Correct.
All right, now we're going to have a special section, which is the last fanboy, Ned, is going to share a bit more about what is going on with Lazarus Lake, the founder of Backyard, and the Barclay Marathon.
Thank you. And for indulge me, I'll keep it to 1 minute. Lazarus, the great man, is old. And as he's written, it's his last great adventure. I hope it's not. He'll have many more. Laz was a great ultra runner in the day. A few years ago, he walked across America, and he's doing it again. He's in his 70s. He's been having some surgeries. His body is slowly breaking down, but he's been training. And every other day, he walks 10, 15, 20 miles in the winter of Tennessee to toughen him up. And just if you love great writing, at the end of his day, he writes small poems about being old and walking and soul and life and adventure. And he's a wordsmith. It's beautiful. And Laz has been having some tough times recently. So drop him some love. Go to Facebook. Follow his poems. He's a master. And this year he will walk across America. And if you're listening to us in America, you can join him for parts of the walk. So please do. It's amazing.
We're sending a lot of love from Asia to Laz, one of the greats of the sport. And I heard you saying that you are quite inspired by him also to write up your weekly drops of wisdom and inspiration, how we call them. So you might become the next soul of backyard running in Asia, Ned.
I don't know, but why don't we jump into it? And I will give my weekly drop, if that's okay. Okay. Ned's drop. This week, we're going to talk about eating. All the things I have eaten in an ultra. I was chatting with a friend. He was asking, how many Snickers can I eat an hour while running? Made me think of the old phrase. An ultra is an eating competition with running as a side event. If you are not good at eating, you can't run far, or at least not really far. So you have to eat. But what have you eaten in an ultra? Me? Lots. Let's start with the obvious. Gels. Not sure they are food, but they can be. Bananas. Like a solid gel in a yellow packet. Watermelon. I didn't eat a whole one. Wait. Well, maybe I did. Cup noodles. Late at night. At a garage. Spilled half of it on the floor. Tasted just as good off the floor. Mashed potatoes. Always yum in my tum. A Big Mac. At K 186 of a 213K run. None of it stayed in. I should have asked for a refund. Chicken rice. A Singapore special dish. It's chicken and rice. Sitting in a food court, soaked at sweat, 30 hours into a run, dripping into my food. People moved away from me. I don't blame them. Ice cream. Lots of it. I live on the equator. It's hot. Ice cream is like fuel with ice in it. It cools the engines. Beef jerky at hour 30. I chewed it till hour 31. Pasta doesn't work for me. It always ends back on the road. I could go on. I've tried to put everything in. It's a magic part of our sport. You get to practice eating. What other sport has that? You get fit by eating. The more you eat, the further you go, the fitter you get. You eat to get fit. Greatest sport in the world. Get out there and eat. Ned.
Thanks, Ned. I was visualizing quite a few of those things while you were reading it out. I will keep those thoughts to myself.
I was talking to a friend, Aram, if you're listening, that was you, and he's kind of running a lot, but new to running, and he was like, how many Snickers can I eat an hour while running? And I said to him, well, look, here's how it works. Eat them till either your stomach hurts or you throw up. That's the right amount. That's the test.
That's for sure.
So I thought, I wonder how much else I could eat or write about. So if you're thinking about ultra and it is a question, you've just got to practice. Try many different things and you'll find out what works for you.
Very, very true. To all of you, thanks for listening this week. We appreciate you joining our journey. We appreciate you being part of our community that's growing quite a bit, seeing more downloads, more feedback, more thoughts coming our way. It's amazing to see the One More K community growing all over the world. Thank you, Ned, for being part of this. Episode 6 is in the box. And for everyone out there, go to YouTube, go to all the other platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple, or of course Twitter and Instagram, where you can find more information about our podcast.
Thank you, people. Lots of love. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week on episode 7. Take care.
Thank you.